Right, let's move on now to the next discussion. Businesses in Nigeria may now have to bear the brunt of the recent hike in interest rate, as this may affect profits. Now, this is coming just after the Central Bank of Nigeria increased its interest rate from 18.5% to 18.75%. Now, the interest rate is considered as one of the key tools used to manage the flow of money and productivity in a country, and a hike in the interest rate may make borrowing difficult and reduce the money a consumer spends. Although the acting CBN governor, Folashodun Shonubi, noted that this decision would help to moderate the rate of inflation of goods and services, many are still concerned whether it will promote economic investment and growth. This is the crux of our discussion. And joining us via Zoom is a financial expert, Olusegun Elemo. Olusegun, it's nice to have you join us this morning from Abuja.
Thank you for having me. Happy to join.
Great.
And good morning to all our viewers.
Great. All right. Now, CBN, when it comes to monetary policies, of course, they are the ones who decide all of those. But the common man who is on the street, or the market woman, Biliki, who is selling anything in the market, doesn't know what all those interest rates and all of those things mean. For him or for her at that level, they want to be able to trade, and as they trade, let the price of things remain at their level where they can trade easily and, live by, as the case may be. Speak to us the implication of this increased interest rate, because when you mention interest rate, some persons who may want to get loans will be concerned.
Absolutely. What has happened, the implication of what the CBN, the decision it took at the end of its MPC meeting for of course, it's bi-monthly, at the end of the last one, which happened a few days ago, is that it further cut or reduced money supply. What that does is that access to credit is now limited, more limited than it was before. The decision was actually born out of the signal that the Apex Bank was getting, thinking that its continuous increase of the or upward review, let me put it that way, of the interest rate, had moderated the inflation figures somehow. Well, the reality, in the market is different. But that is the data that is available to the Apex Bank. And with that evidence before it, it then, concluded that, okay, it appears that that measure was working, shrinking money supply, which, then sort of moderated inflation. But like I said, the reality in the market, you and I know, because, food prices have gone up. Prices of commodities have gone up, services have, shot up. Everything, have literally tripled, double, or quadrupled over the last, 6 months, 3 months, couple of weeks that this new administration gave it. Now, for the common man on the street, what that means is that people, consumers, will have, less disposable income to come to the market. Activities in the market will also shrink. Revenue or money flows to these, market people, artisans, and what have you will also shrink. The larger implication is about the productivity, really, which then translates to the gross domestic product of the of the country. And how that will impact that, we're still going to see, but it's going to be really heavy on it. What I'm just hoping is that perhaps this should be some temporary measure, and as soon as things begin to stabilize, perhaps maybe productivity begins to scale up, especially in sectors that we can quickly take some wins from. For instance, in the oil and gas. yes, there's some activities going on to stop, crude oil theft. As soon as we're able to ramp up that sector and earn more income from that area, I believe the fiscal space can now be expanded a little bit to accommodate more liquidity.
Yeah, Olusegun, I want you to kind of, expatiate on your earlier point, and it also seems to reflect the rationale of the central bank in increasing the this MPR that we see now to 18.75 or thereabout. The CBN, acknowledged that I think it was only a minimal 6 to 5, 6 members or a majority number of members had, voted that it be increased, while about 5 or thereabouts had voted that it be retained at the former rate. But of course, the news has, since moved on. But the CBN is saying that hiking the interest rate has made a lot of difference in moderating the rate of inflation. And I want you to, expatiate on that, especially when you now look at the current state of our Naira.
Well, yes, like I said earlier, the data before the Apex Bank is that inflation, had moderated a little bit, not significantly. And then, like you said, 6 to 5, 6 people took a decision to then further expand the implementation of that policy measure to say if indeed inflation had moderated a little bit, it appears that this decision we took the last time to increase the MPR is working. Then, if we further increase, perhaps we can moderate further the inflation figures. The other option, it's good to also mention that there was no option to reduce the MPR. So it was either to retain it as it was or to increase it, looking at whatever impact we're going to get. But like you asked about, the state of the Naira, yes, the president had given instruction that arbitrage should be collapsed. But you now see what is happening in the market today. At the time the president gave that instruction, I think maybe the dollar to the Naira in the parallel market was trading for about 740, 750 thereabout. And then at the official window, it was around 460 thereabout. Now, when it was collapsed, we saw some marginal shifts between the parallel market and the official window. But since that time, over the last couple of weeks now, that the president gave that instruction, you can see that the parallel market now is shifting even further and further and further. And as at yesterday, the market was trading, dollar at 870 or thereabout, where the official window was still around 760, 750 or thereabout. So it then looks like we haven't solved the problem, and a simple policy instruction cannot solve the problem. There must be some concerted effort to really take on this issue headlong. And when you now tie the state of the Naira today with the inflation reality, I'm not talking about the inflation figure, inflation data that is available to the Apex. I'm talking about the inflation reality that people can, when you get to the market this morning, you are going to buy, a module of dairy very, very, significantly from what you used to buy 3-4 months ago. A bag of rice, a bucket of beans, yam, and the likes. Everybody know. I mean, I saw a few days ago that they were even selling a tuber of yam for as high as 3,000, 4,000 naira. A tuber, just one tuber of yam. How many people can afford that, really? And that's the reality we have in the market today. So you could see what has now happened with the Naira. There's that devaluation further collapsed the disposable income of the average Nigerian. So the impact of the inflation as a result of the MPR, you could say, or the monetary policy, decisions is there. The subsidy removal further impacted on that. Then the collapse of the Naira again, further impacted on that. So if you literally you were earning perhaps, when we say 50,000 naira as of January 2023, by now, the value of that 50,000 naira, I'm not sure it's more than 15,000 naira anymore in terms of what you can buy in the market. And you know the reality when you fuel your tank or when you buy food products in the market. So the data before the Apex Bank is that inflation is moderating, but the reality in the market speaks very differently. And we have to do something drastic about it.
All right, but Shegun, at this point, I wonder what what options are left, because experts have said that it was better to unify or to remove that dichotomy between official rate and parallel, rates of the currencies here and there. And the president came and said, well, okay, fine, let's do this thing. And here we are, everyone is still complaining. So what needs to be done? What options are left so that we can have a unified system? Because if you travel to Rwanda or South Africa or Kenya or any of those African countries, they just have, from one part of the country to another, the rate remains the same. Why is it in Nigeria, why is it so different to have something like that?
You see, what is happening here is that we have our own people, Nigerians, trying to take advantage of the system. You see, I understand the weaknesses in government, and that there is limit to how you can attack this the sector in terms of, for instance, government going after operators in the sector. There's limit to how you can execute that kind of measures, because number one, we're in a democracy. So except you say that it is criminal, except you criminalize the commercialization of FX, foreign currencies in Nigeria, then you can then go after unorthodox operators, full gear, and just go after them. But one of the measures that was taken recently is that the Apex Bank now deregistered or withdrew the licenses of some BDC operators. What is happening in that window is really, really criminal in nature. Well, unfortunately, we haven't criminalized it. So there's no how you can prosecute people, on that, except you have, maybe substantial evidence that they have violated certain, monetary policy regulations. What I'm saying is that, for instance, if you walk into a bank today, you can withdraw as much as $20,000 over the counter. That was the policy instruction, provided a few weeks ago. I have not seen any country where you go, yes, the dollar is a universal currency. We get it. But if you come into Nigeria, there's no reason, you have no reason at all to trade in foreign currencies, except you want to do electronic transactions, which of course sometimes usually are offshore. Why should you go into a bank today and then withdraw FX over the counter and then go on the street and start purchasing and trading and things like that? Again, is that the guys in the parallel market, the currency they are trading today, as at today, where do they get it from? Is it from diaspora remittance? When those diaspora remittances come, where do they land? Do they land in the parallel market, or they land within the financial system? Now, who then takes out this FX and then go on the street and start trading? We need to really look inward and see how we address all of these issues. What I think happened since the president gave that instruction is that people who that policy instruction do not favor, these are certainly not in the interest of some people. They will throw billions of naira at the little dollar or pounds in the parallel market, trying to frustrate that policy measure and push that the exchange rate further down, making it look as if the government is incompetent and does not know what it's doing. But the truth is that even JP Morgan, said recently that the naira value as at today, given the GDP of Nigeria and the foreign reserve that we have, should be around 600, 650 thereabouts. But the reality is different. So you want to see some strict measures. I'm not saying you should shrink the FX space and then erode the confidence of investors. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that you cannot allow people to have access to FX in cash and then go on the street and start trading. You must do something about it. And then again, is that it's either you are going to have super BDCs in Nigeria, super BDCs in the sense that the kind of, for instance, the microfinance sector, you can have super BDCs and hold them accountable to the amount of FX that is traded in the country on a daily basis. And they must, account for who is buying the FX, how they are buying the FX. And I don't think anybody, any Nigerian should buy FX in cash today. If you're going to buy FX, it should be electronic, and you should do those transactions electronic in such a way that the system can monitor it. I'll give you an example. If you go to, the BDC operators in Abuja here today, you can trade as much as $100,000, $500,000, and the financial system in Nigeria will not even beep to make a signal of that volume of transaction. What country do you run that kind of system? Nobody does that. So if you have that kind of system where people can trade in that volume and the system does not recognize that transaction, then there's something is wrong. We need to look into it, because otherwise we're going to have the naira shrink further and further and further, and certainly it will not be in the interest of anyone, especially of course the ordinary Nigerian.
All right.
So Olusegun, in all of this, I know you've expressed some concerns with the current state of our naira, but with this increment in the MPR, what's going to be the impact on economic growth and investment?
Well, certainly productivity will slow down. Yes, productivity will slow down, and entrepreneurs, who have suffered, of course, as a result of the recent policies around the subsidy removal, the FX collapse, and then now the MPR, will now have limited access to credit again to do their businesses. And then again, is that, of course, when the MPR increases, the banks also increases their own interest rates, because that's, if you borrow from the CBN at that rate, you also want to make profit, and then you jack up that rate. Again, for the consumers or the entrepreneurs that are coming to access credit within the financial system. What certainly happens, of course, like I said, is productivity will slow down, and that will impact on the GDP. But I'm expecting that once we ramp up productivity in other sectors, for instance, I gave you an example of the oil and gas sector. If we're able to do that quickly, like we are now, adjusting and making taking some steps. The steps that the government had taken over the last few weeks, in curbing crude oil theft. So if we're able to address that, productivity in that sector will then go up a little bit. We'll get more FX, and then the revenue of the country will expand more, and then we can open up the fiscal space, and then perhaps maybe in the next two MPC meetings, or 2 or 3 MPC meetings, I expect that the MPR should then begin to moderate and then maybe come down a little bit, so that we can open the fiscal space and access to credit. But again, the issue here is who are the class of entrepreneurs that actually access credit within the financial system. I mean, you don't often hear MSMEs having access to credit. So I think that's what the CBN now needs to look at. If we then begin to reduce MPR, who are the class of entrepreneurs that should have access to credit? I think we should look, in the direction of MSMEs, so that, because they constitute of certainly the larger, percentage of the productivity sector of the country. So we need to provide, credit to them to be able to do their businesses and ensure that they can contribute to economic growth. I think that's what is important here.
All right, talking about productivity, of course, in every sector, if we talk about productivity, whether it's in the industry sector, before you can get the impact, it takes time. If you're setting up industries, or you are even producing products from raw material level to finished product, it takes time before the impact is felt. If you take it to agriculture, for instance, where it relates to food and all of that, and those allied products and so on, it takes time too, because you have to do a planting and then, irrigation and harvesting before you transport to the market and so on. Even in oil and gas, it takes a whole lot of time. See how long it took before the Dangote refinery is about to come upstream. Nigerians are still waiting. Even if it starts producing today, it's going to take some little time before the impact is felt eventually. So, as it is right now, the average Nigerian, like I mentioned the ability earlier on, how helpless is our situation right now?
I think everybody is helpless. That's where right now. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, when I get to the filling station, there's no help there. You have to bring more money out. So everybody is helpless in one way or the other, but the reality is different from different classes of citizens. I think that's a fact. The truth is, everything takes time to come to fruition. So, and that's why we need to be deliberate with our actions. For instance, let me give you an example. Some of the agricultural loans that was given out under the former, central bank, we haven't seen any effect of it. And that's one thing about implementing public policies. You have to really, really be, deliberate and be intentional and be honest, when you are doing these things. Because right now you expect that food inflation would have reduced, even if you are having, the regular inflationary pushing up as a result of certain, factors there. But food inflation is not even helping. For instance, as at 2023, you are looking at something around 23.65% as at May 2023. That's the average, away from what you had in 2022, which was 18.6%. So you see, food inflation is going higher and higher, and that's what concerns the average Nigerian. The National Bureau of Statistics said 63%, about 1.3 million people, are living in multidimensional poverty. World Bank even put it, a little bit higher than that. I think about 71% or thereabout. So, and if you have that kind of figure in your hands, you want to address the basic needs of those Nigerians, which is food, clothing, and shelter. You want to address all of those. So even if you can't address clothing issues or shelter or at least food, very primary. How many people can eat as much as they used to, before? How many people can do that today? So, and it has impacted everybody. And like I always say, it doesn't matter the point at which you are in the ladder, the economic ladder. It impacts you. For instance, if you're driving SUV, a V8 or thereabout, and they are spending maybe 100,000 every month or maybe per week to fuel the V8 vehicles, you're probably going to be spending 500,000. It means that your income has been impacted somewhat. You are not going to be happy about that. As somebody who is up there on the ladder, talk less of someone who has to take public transportation on a daily basis. And again, is that with the impact of the policy measures that have been taken in the FX window, in the around the subsidy issue. Yes, I understand that the fiscal authorities are also looking at whatever impact wage increase will make around inflation. And that is very, very important to put it in context, that if you increase wage today, you are going to pump money into the system, money that is not backed by productivity. And that's why I said earlier that you need to ramp up productivity in certain sectors so that you know that whatever money you are pumping out into the system is backed by productivity. So if you increase wages today, you are not going to be, it's not backed by productivity. As such, inflation will further shoot up. And perhaps maybe that's why the fiscal authorities are slowing down around the wage negotiation with labor union. But people are dying, for crying out loud. You're not going to, stagnate the economy, because of that. But I know that, authorities have to do what they have to do in the interest of everybody. But I just hope that indeed they are doing everything that they have to do in the interest of those that matter.
Especially in the interest of Iyabiliki, who is there selling different things. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Olusegun Elemo. Thank you for your time and insight into these issues this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Great.